Good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Rose with Realty One Group in beautiful Payson, Arizona. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very, very special show with all these cowboys and great men who are running for public office. But before we get started, please be reminded that we want you to like, share the show, and ask questions so we can get this information out to the general public. You can also visit my website after at paysonazproperties.com. It will be archived under the talk show so you can see it again, and of course it'll be archived on our Facebook page. And I want to thank Cameron Davis and his son Chaz. Chaz, who's a brand new daddy. Woohoo! He's in the room, and he and Bethany had a beautiful baby girl last week, Rinsley, and she couldn't be any more perfect. So we're excited to have Chaz in the room today. So we're going to jump right in. Gentlemen, we have Doug Laird, Steve Otto, and Jim Ferris. So we're going to start with you, Doug, and tell people just a little bit about yourself and why you were deciding to run for mayor.
You know, my whole life has been spent in the business world, and so you know, a few years ago, my dad passed away, and I came over to handle all the arrangements of the funeral. I could see real quick that Mom wasn't going to be able to make it on her own, so I went ahead and resigned from Deere. 25 years almost to the day when I resigned, and moved back to Payson. And in the course of the last four and a half years, being exposed to what's going on in the town, I wasn't aware that I was being patterned and being made ready to run for office. So I had some people approach me, it's been about, it was in January, and they said, Doug, they said, we need somebody with intestinal fortitude, somebody that's got a track record that's impeccable, to be able to walk in, and we want you to run for, initially it was town council, and then then we had a big shakeup, and then I was told that, you know, by one of the people in my campaign who eventually became my campaign manager. She said, God has told me that you're the one that is supposed to run for mayor, and that I'm supposed to step down and be just campaign manager. So it took me a while to figure it all out. It took me 2-3 weeks of praying it through and a lot of sleepless nights and so forth. But after listening to both Steve and Jim and listening to other people like crazy, and plugged into politics, plugged into the finances of the town, hearing the issues that need to be solved, I went ahead and cautiously said yes. And so at that point in time, I threw my hat in the ring, went down and pulled papers, and decided that I would go ahead and run for mayor.
Someone's told me that you were you went to high school here. And did you have a history in Payson prior to moving back?
Yeah, it goes back to 1972. My dad moved up here with and bought the Rainbow Bread business, and the old timers up here, they actually knew Mom and Dad, and I was transferred up here from South Mountain High in the valley, where I was a rebel down there, and became a Longhorn up here, and finished my last year up here and played football here my senior year, and tore my knee up pretty good my senior year up here. But you know what? I did what all students do whenever they graduate high school. You know, there's no opportunities up here, and so there's minimal opportunities, let me put it that way. And so I went ahead, went to the valley, went to college, and I was the second youngest police officer ever hired by the Tempe Police Department at that time. So went to work for the police department, stayed in the valley, life moves on, I moved on, went to work for John Deere, and went the corporate route before I was done, and that's where I really found my place in life, was being involved in the corporate world.
Fantastic. So that's really great. You have a business background. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope people can see that you would be able to contribute a lot to our town if you were elected mayor, right?
Yeah, if I can add one more thing.
Sure.
I think I will bring the business experience to all this, and the fact that in the corporate world, when you're given a task, you have to make that task reality. And it seems like we've had so many things in this town that get started, they get derailed along the way, they never get finished. In the world that I came out of, you don't get paid for that.
Exactly.
And so, as a matter of fact, you're probably gonna be down at the unemployment office drawing an unemployment check if you don't get things done. So, these two guys that are running with me and myself, we are the guys. We're gonna make this a yes town, a yes culture, where we actually make things happen for the citizens in conjunction with them and their voices. We'll make things happen in this community, and we won't be just the guys that are pie in the sky and say, you know what, I believe this is a good idea. Let's go ahead and attempt this, and then it never even gets started.
Yeah.
That's not going to be us.
That's great. Good to know. Speaking of business owners, Mr. Steve Otto, tell the public just a little bit about who you are and what you've done in your career, because I believe you're a businessman too.
I'm a retired businessman. I spent 31 years in the glories of self-employment, and I didn't have a corporate board to answer to. I had the customer that was writing the check. So if my projects didn't happen, I didn't get paid. And it gave me an outlook, it gave me a determination that anytime I took on a project, I focused on the details, I did my research, and I've transferred that to my life in Payson. What I thought was going to be the life of retirement, I have been going to lots of town hall meetings with various projects being discussed. And then as I research the projects that the town and others have promoted, the facts don't really bear fruit. When you really dig in and really look, they're just kind of shading the facts just a little bit to make things look their way. So as I've gone forward, I look deeper and deeper and deeper, and I decided to run for council because there were just some things going on in this town that I couldn't walk around. It was time for me to stand up and put my skills out there and ask for the people of Payson to support me and let me help them have the life that they came to Payson for.
That's really excellent. And you know, I've always said that if the government would run like an independent business owner, 80 to 90% of our problems would go away. And you can't just hide things under the rug. Mm-hmm. I know by doing my own research that there are some things that aren't being really revealed out into the general public's eyes. So there's a lot of people listening that are brand new to Payson. A lot of people have been moving here, and we're very grateful for them. And it's really good that they get an opportunity to hear you gentlemen speak. And as a very seasoned town council member, I'm going to segue to Jim for just a moment.
Okay.
You have a lot of insight into what's going on. And I know that the Payson Roundup likes to make you the lamb that's been led to the slaughter. A great example is this book that was in the children's library that was completely inappropriate, within reaching distance of any 5-year-old, and somehow they made it seem like you were aberrant for even suggesting that we be protective as parents and as a community to what our children have eyes on and could have access to. So I want to thank you first for all your service. You have been one of the lone wolves crying out in the wilderness. So Jim, tell us a little bit about your experience and why you've decided to endure such persecution again.
Yeah, I don't, the persecution's a badge of honor when you consider where it comes from a lot of times. But yeah, the book was inappropriate. It was displayed prominently for the children to have access to it in the children's library. And, you can argue about things, but to me, it boils down to, either there's right and wrong, there's good and there's evil, decent and indecent, appropriate and inappropriate. But if you don't see the separation of these the dichotomy of these terms, and you have I can't dialogue. There's no debate. Unless you have something where there's an absolute about things, and I feel, that this community is predominantly a Christian community, and they want to live by the tenets and the precepts, the teachings of their Christian values, and it seems like every turn of the way they're trying to strip that out of our public discourse and forums. And I just feel, if we need to stand up and speak up against this. If we can't control in our Payson Public Library this kind of a material, keep that up, what can we do? That is such a sad commentary. And, if they want to say, well, you're some guy, a book burner, they want to make it about censorship as opposed to being decent and indecent, appropriate and inappropriate. But, so be it. Then it just falls right there if they have no concept of those things. So
I would agree. So tell us a little bit why you want to continue on this path with the town council and some of the things that you'd like to see changed by you remaining there and doing this public servant job.
Well, I was telling people, well, I'm not going to run again unless there's a couple good people that are going to run with me. And maybe unfortunate to me, these guys are good people and are running. So I go, all right, let's go. Because there's things that I think without the people in there that are loyal to the citizens, all the citizens, and to me that's a big deal. You can have a servant's heart, but who are you serving? You need to serve the citizens of Payson and not some special interest agenda of some other group. And so often in so many communities, and people will say, well, why do you feel that? How do you, look at this private, group over here in this light? And I said, I've done a lot of research, and my research goes back a number of years. All the data points are right there in front of me. A lot of citizens, a lot of people, maybe they've seen a few of those data points back there, and then a few years, some more, and they've forgotten all those, and they think we're coming up here and we got a clean slate. I'm going, no, if you can connect those dots, just historically and where we're at now, it's not, as our mayor wants to say, well, quit looking in the rear view mirror. No, what happened back then is happening now and will continue to happen unless somebody stands up and represents the best interests of the citizens of Payson.
Yeah, so what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that there's been this kicking of the can down the road. People kick the can down the road because they don't want to deal with the real issues, and they're hoping that everyone forgets about the past. But what you're saying is we can't forget about the past because the past is influencing this moment right here, right now.
If you don't learn from history, you're going to, just again commit the same mistakes again.
Going to the point of accountability, and I think this is what's missing in federal government, in state governments, and local governments, is this accountability. Is there not some type of law that says that a town should be audited every 4 to 10 years, something? And do either any of you know if our town has ever gone through some sort of audit, be it forensic, ethics, anything? Have you heard of anything like that?
Didn't you ask if there had actually been a forensic audit before in the town?
No, there hasn't been.
Yeah, never been a forensic audit, and so as a mayor, I have to be able to speak to the finances of the town.
Yes.
And in my mind, I just see, I want to know where the money's going. I just want to know where the money's going, and the best way to do that is through a forensic audit. I mean, we're applauded every year because of the audits that we do. Well, they're not a complete audit of all the town's finances. They go down one river and they audit that one river. And so if that river is clean, then they so they don't go on and audit the rest of the town.
Have any of the rivers been scrubbed prior to a real audit happening? And if there's never been an audit, this is a moot point, but
Well,
you would know, right?
Yeah, they'll say, well, we had this audit firm come in, but it's very superficial what they do. And, there's so many disclaimers. Okay, everything's good and clean, but we didn't do this. We're not, saying that this is all clean and clear. It's very superficial. But we need an audit, and there's times where you have people associated with the town administration. And they say, well, we did this here, and that cost us a lot of money, but we didn't have an audit to be able to discover that.
So
and you just go, well, why don't we have a good, a deep, clean audit done? Find out, and maybe we'll find out some things, some processes and procedures that we can change that will help keep it, efficient and transparent going forward.
Yeah, there's a consistent pattern in the spending with our government is in where that they keep hiring more and more and more people, which to me says there's a huge inefficiency going on in the town in terms of the leadership, that more can't be done with a little less. And as business owners, we know that you have to hire the right people for the right job. If you hire the right people, they can get done 10 times what the average person could get done if they're not in the right position. Would you agree with me? And what do you think about all this hiring?
We would, and our budget is going up to 59 million or 58 million, excuse me. It's going from 49 to 58 million, as we just heard at the last town meeting. And I would just ask, and maybe Jim can address this, where's the additional funds coming from? I would love to know where that additional 9 million is actually coming from. And I think it's a question that begs to be asked, but we're going to $58 million, and so we have projects that have sorely been needed to be done here for years, not the least of which are roads, and as Jim has brought the attention of everybody, our water system here. The water under the roads, the delivery system under the roads, and Steve has talked about that ad nauseum too. We've got some issues that need to be done. They're going to be high dollar things that need to be done in the town, and fortunately it's gone to 58 million, so I hope that in the process they're going to take a large degree of that money and they're actually going to plow it back into infrastructure needs that we actually need to be done.
Well, let's talk about Prop 408, because as president of the Board of Realtors, we've made a big push and we've gotten a grant to help promote Proposition 408, which is misunderstood by a number of people, that the extra money is actually coming from the Home Rule Act, and that if the town gets it to pass, then they're able to adopt their own budget and then receive more funds from the federal government and from the state government. If it does not pass, we're running on $18 million budget a year. So say it doesn't pass. If you were elected mayor and you're both on the town council, what are you going to do with $18 million when the town is asked and needs $58 million? That's $40 million gap. So we need to talk about that. Steve, do you want to address it a little bit?
The challenge that I see is, I've looked into the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and there are options other than home rule or do nothing. The town has been thoroughly committed on pushing home rule, so that at this juncture, this close to the election, Payson has no option. We've got to pass home rule. We've got to allow Payson to spend what it takes in, and then in the time going forward, have a deep discussion about the permanent solution. Because home rule has to be voted on every 4 years.
Yes.
And there are permanent solutions, but nobody at town hall wants to bring those up. And I think that does a disservice to the citizens of Payson.
Yeah, because once again, there's a saying: if you don't lead during, if you don't sweat during the planning, you will bleed in the implementation. And I think when you have a lot of people on running the government that have no business background, they've always been handed a check from the federal government, or they've been handed a check from an employer. They have no concept of what it takes to sweat during the planning and figure out the tough problems. So is this platform you're running together because you feel confident that between your knowledge as men, having the backgrounds that you've had, do you think that you can get after it and help start solving this big issue of overspending by the government, including our own?
Go ahead.
Go after you.
I really think that the assets that we bring as a team, we all have backbones of steel. We're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to bend to special interests. We are committed to the citizens of Payson, and that's the way we're going to proceed. The town has all the Payson government that I've seen since I've been here in 10 years, it's if you don't toe the party line, they will bludgeon you as a candidate. They will destroy your business, and I know I'm speaking to the choir, but
They tried,
but
they will not succeed against the right people.
And that's why I'm in the race. I'm retired. I don't have a business. I've got a squeaky clean background, so if they want to come after me, here I am. Come after me.
And if I can add to what he was saying, Deb, a minute ago, in business, not all business is good business. A lot of corporations walk away from something that's not good, which potentially could cost the corporation money. We received COVID relief funds here in town.
That's true.
And by receiving those COVID relief funds, they came with strings attached to it. And because they had strings attached to it, a good friend of mine, I guess you could say it's hearsay, but he went to the mayor and asked the mayor when we could actually remove our masks. And his answer was telling. He said the governor will tell me when it's time to remove the masks. The reason for that is because we'd received COVID relief funds, and when you do that, there's strings attached, and the federal government is involved in the background. They're pulling the strings of the town. And I just think there are times when we need to not think as a bureaucrat. As a bureaucrat, when you look at it, you say to yourself, there's free funds. We want the free funds. You dive into it. Not count. God's word says that we should count the costs in everything that we do. And I'm just not sure that when everybody goes clamoring for COVID relief funds and things where there's lots of strings attached, that they counted the cost. And between the three of us, we will absolutely count the costs in the things that happen here in this town.
Well, that's wonderful. One thing I know about Jim is I've seen him doing a lot of due diligence. I don't think I've ever seen another member of our current town council, and I don't know Scott Nosek very well at all. I'm not including him, but the ones that have been on the town for quite a while, doing your due diligence is critical to the success of public servanthood. And this man has consistently done tons of research before a meeting, so he can come in more informed and make better decisions. The two of you, it sounds like, Steve, you do a tremendous amount of due diligence, and that's something that you would continue to do, correct, if you were elected?
Oh, absolutely. I have file envy as to all the information that Jim has.
File envy.
I've just got a roller cart with 7 notebooks in it now, and it started with a single page of paper after the mayor and Kenny Evans spoke at the high school and talked about the park at Granite Dells and where the water was going to come from. So I did one Freedom of Information request, and then, that answer caused more questions. So I did another, and then I filled a water notebook going back to 1973 and all the water adjudications that Payson has benefited or been held under since then. And then more questions came up, and so then I came up with an Americans for Disability Act book, and then now there's a finance book, and the more I dig, the more information is coming my way, and I'm not going to stop.
I have a question. Why do you think our local newspaper doesn't cover this? There's a lot of hush hush. Let's not discuss this. There are problems that seem to be, once again, put under the rug, or the can is kicked down the road. Why do you think that is? And maybe, Jim, you're the best person to answer since you've been serving a long time.
I think there's been that close-knit association between what I call the cabal and the newspaper, fake news, and it just, at one point, there were some people saying, well, why won't you let myself, Jim, put in an op-ed? So okay, we'll take, why? Offered an op-ed, 1,100 words. Oh, can't be more than 600. Well, I can't express what I have, in 600 words. I said, you allow Kenny Evans 2,000 words on op-eds, not what they're paid part of it, but in the op-ed section and full-colored photographs and everything else. I just want 1,100 words. And I remember having this discussion with Michelle Nelson, and she, it's what it's got to be. And I said, well, have you ever Googled your paper and Kenny Evans and went back and looked at all the statements over the years he's made that were just as matter of fact, this is it, we're breaking ground in the fall. After a while, are the hospitals going to put $25 million in capital improvements in the next 7 years? Banner was, it didn't happen. I said, at what point does he lose credibility in your eyes? And she, well, we've had a conversation with him about the credibility issue. And I'm thinking, well, how's that worked out? Does he gets whatever he wants, they get whatever propaganda, and I mean, just the way the articles are written, the way things, whether against me, for them, it's unbelievable. To me, it's just obvious, biased, fake news.
Yeah. I've been on the receiving end of what you're saying. So what you're saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to counter? For the people out there that don't believe, like they want to either not believe the truth, or maybe they've never been exposed to real truth, how are you going to get to the truth in your eyes, and how are you going to disperse information when basically you're hemmed in by any lack of support from the media? Is it going to be through social media? Is it going to be, are you going to hold more open meetings? What's your thought process in getting information out to the general public in such a way that it's not filtered through the lens of special interest?
I want public meetings. I've already told KMOG that I want to have some foreign appearances after I'm elected. I want information out without a filter. There's information coming from people that have felt that they've been silenced. And I was sitting in the parking lot of the Mayo Clinic, and I got a phone call from someone who heard me talk at the Nazarene Church. And he said, well, I heard your talk about the water and the infrastructure under the streets. Do you know about this, that, and something else? And it just caused alarm bells. And I'm not prepared to report what he had to say until I check each thing out independently. But he told me some things that, if they are true, are damning for the town of Payson. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not gonna spread rumor or innuendo, but every time I have rock hard, solid facts and documents, I'm gonna get them out there to the people of Payson.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. We've got just a few minutes left, so in closing, gentlemen, let's start with Doug. Why should people vote for you? What are you going to do for them? I think that's the ultimate question that people who are getting ready to vote. Early ballots go out next week, I believe. Tell them, I would look in the camera and tell them what you hope to do and what you plan to do if they were to elect you as our new mayor.
Openness, transparency, and making sure that you, the public, actually know what's going on within your own government is the big thing we want to do. I want accountability to you. We have had a government that's been rather rogue these days. They're not listening to your wishes, your desires. And so we want to be those people that actually listen to you. And we make this town that absolute gem that it's close to being. It just needs a little finishing off here and there, but we'll be the guys that will get the projects done.
Steve?
I want to be the town council member that does the work instead of talking about work. We have so many people at town hall that, oh, we need studies, we need to do this, we need to do that. And everything progresses until it's time to get out, put a shovel in the ground and do the work, and then everybody disappears. No work happens. And I'm going to be the town councilman that gets in there and does the work. And that's why I would appreciate your vote on August 2nd.
Very good. Jim?
Yeah. We have boards and commissions in this town that are supposed to do research, do things, and get a kind of a consensus of what they believe the community wants. And it's supposed to be reported to us. It just seems like there's so much out there in the community. What's going on? It gets filled in. The administration doesn't allow it to happen to us. It seems like the boards and commissions are just, bobbleheads as to what they're told to, what direction to go by the administration. I'm just going, no, we need to change Ordinance 107, get a little bit more ability for the town council people to get some feedback, get some good raw information from the town so that we can make intelligent and good decisions going forward.
Well, you're just continuing what you've always done is what you just said. That's wonderful.
Right. The one other thing I wanted to say about the KMOG is seems to be one media source in town, and maybe the where you can in your podcast where you can get it out. But too about we got some movies coming up.
Yeah, we do. Let's talk about that. What are you offering to the public? And it's an opportunity where people can come and meet you and talk with you, and it's coming up quick, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
It's coming up tomorrow, 10 a.m. It will be over here at the Sawmill Theaters, and it's free. I've been instructed to, it is masked.
COVID land, the mask.
COVID land.
The lockdown.
Yeah.
COVID land, the lockdown.
COVID land, the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will be tomorrow, and there'll be a theater that'll be open for you. Come in and buy some popcorn, buy some soda to help support our local theater. Come in and listen. It's going to give you a lot of information about what actually happened during the lockdown and how your federal government actually took a lot of your rights and freedoms away from you during that time.
And there's a spillover too. There's 2,000 meals.
Yes.
That is an eye-opening documentary also.
So there's 2 free movies tomorrow, 10 o'clock at the Sawmill Theaters here in Payson. Be aware that there is also a farmer's market going on, so parking will be limited. So if you can carpool and you want to meet these gentlemen that are running for public office as public servants, by all means, you are invited to attend. And if you want more information, you can go to savepaysonaz.com. That information is up on that website. And I just want to thank these gentlemen for making the time to come and share with us exactly what they hope to do with our votes. And thank you for having servant hearts. I know it's not easy. I know it's been rough on you. And I'm glad that you have a couple of other gentlemen that have got your back. Because I know this discouragement is great when you feel like you are standing alone in the wilderness and the truth simply doesn't get out because everything is twisted into some kind of diabolical belief system that you have. And I believe that people want to move to Payson because we are conservative, because we are a God-fearing community, because we are a patriot-loving town. And don't forget about that Patriot Vehicle Parade, by the way, 4th of July, 9 a.m., starting at Green Valley Lake. That is going to be so cool. But you got to go into the Payson Golf Course and get signed up. The numbers are very, very high, and you will see what this town really stands for and what it really means. And on the heels of that, gentlemen, I just want to remind everyone that the Vietnam Wall is coming from Washington, D.C., August 25th through the 28th at Rumsey Park. And we have a great website up, thanks to Chaz and Cameron. And it's called thewallthathealspayson.com. You can get involved and be an ambassador by volunteering for this awesome event coming up very, very quickly. So please, if you have any chance to encourage these gentlemen, please do. They all have Facebook pages, right? Do you all have Facebook?
Yes.
What's it called, Doug?
Doug for Payson.
Doug for Payson. Go in and friend him. And Steve?
Steve for Payson.
Steve for Payson. And Jim?
Ferris for Payson.
Ferris for Payson. So there you go. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us today. And it's been an honor and a pleasure getting to know you. And I wish you all the best in the election. Thank you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.